In this presentation, I will be sharing insights on improvisation in the Paraguayan polka through the analysis of Paraguayan musicians' performances. The study of musical improvisation has been approached primarily from three perspectives: the technical characteristics of specific musical traditions, teaching strategies, and the exploration of emotions, cognitive processes, and social interaction associated with it. Although the largest volume of academic production about this subject is related to jazz and other traditions, in the Latin American context, classifications have been proposed for improvisation practices in the different genres of the region, highlighting common features. Due to the oral nature of folk musical genres in Paraguay, we can assume that some degree of improvisation can be found in the accompaniment, thematic variations, and even in the creation of secondary and ornamental melodic lines. Several authors have analyzed and described the technical features, the repertoire, subgenres, and aesthetics of the Paraguayan polka, but there is a gap regarding the improvisation practices in its language. In response to the identified gap, we ask ourselves what are the processes of generation and development of improvisation in the polka of Paraguayan folk musicians. In other words, how do we improvise on a Paraguayan polka rhythm? To address the research question, we did a qualitative study where folk musicians improvised melodies over a Paraguayan polka of their choice and then described their thoughts during the course of the improvisation. The strategies used by musicians to generate improvisation material have been grouped into four categories: idea bank, harmonic priority, rhythmic priority, and instrumental gestures and effects. These categories emerge from the literature and data analysis. The musicians agreed on using previously assimilated resources stored in memory, based on tradition and thematic material. To determine the vertical dimension of the improvisation, the musicians considered the harmonic context and applied specific resources such as arpeggios, pedal bass, and melodic harmonization with intervals of thirds and sixths. Variations of the melodic rhythm were presented in passages where the pitches were predetermined by another strategy. It is important to highlight that musicians recognize the existence of rhythmic cells typical of the melodic language in polka. Instrumental gestures and effects were used in improvisation according to the peculiarities of each instrument: tremolos in the guitar, bordoneos in the Paraguayan harp, and the use of different instrumental planes are some specific examples of this category. The musicians designed some general plans to guide and develop their improvisations in terms of specific ideas, communicating metaphors, presenting a melodic speech, considering performance limitations, and presenting theme and variations. Additionally, they described monitoring the course of improvisation in terms of interaction with the accompanying musician, the emotional atmosphere, and the resolution of technical challenges in the less intuitive passages. These findings provide an approach to improvisation in Paraguayan polka from the performer's perspective. In this illustration, we summarize improvisers' self-reported strategies for generating and developing improvisation. The generative strategies were described, highlighting the retrieval of thematic and traditional resources, the prioritization of the harmonic aspect, rhythmic variations, and the use of instrumental gestures and effects. What we learned about the language of improvisation in Paraguayan polka is that there are more default features when choosing the pitches or tones, while the other musical parameters show less density or fewer default features. If we think about this in terms of the improvisation practices we observed, Rhythmic variations and the use of gestures and instrumental effects provided a greater degree of expressive freedom compared to the other generative strategies we mentioned. The musicians agreed on the importance of prior planning and monitoring during improvisation. Although the plans can vary according to the musician's subjectivity and their expressive intentions, there is consensus on the parameters monitored during the performance. For future studies, it is recommended to explore the role of improvisation in Paraguayan polka, to contextualize these findings within the artistic practice of folk musicians. Thank you for your attention.